I did not want to start this video off with one of those sighs, like when it's a serious video, you do that big sigh. Hold on one second. But yeah, I didn't want to start the video off with a sigh. I accidentally did that. I'm wearing a shirt that says Crybaby because I've been crying all night. I also didn't anticipate to do my makeup for this video. I'm sorry my voice is shaky, I'll explain that in a minute. But my camera was dead, so I just got bored and did some makeup in about a 5-minute span. So it's really bad, but thought I was gonna throw up there for a second. I'm emotional right now because the news I got today sucks. If you are a child, I don't recommend watching this video. It talks about abusive relationships and drug abuse, so I don't recommend watching this video if you're a child, or if you're a parent and you hear your child watching this, I recommend you change it. So I've filmed this video so many times in the last few months. Over and over and over, and I can't get it right. I never know if I'm being too emotional, not emotional enough, if I'm not wording things right, if I'm wording things too much, if I'm talking too much, if I'm not talking enough. There's no instruction manual on how to do this video, so I don't know what I'm doing. This is gonna be my millionth attempt at it, and I'm just gonna upload this one. I don't really care. I've done it like where I have no makeup and I'm sobbing in another room and just emotional, and I have another video where I'm a little less emotional and just like more factual, and I did my hair and makeup and look all good and whatever. And now I have this video and I don't really know what this video is going to be. Probably a little more of the first one though. So I've come out with a video before about my experience and how I got onto heroin and drugs, and I talked about it, and in the video I mentioned how my ex played a role in me getting into drugs. I kept his name out of it, and I begged you guys not to go after him or bother him. This video is going to be a little different, not that I'm enticing you guys to go after him, that's not really the point, but the point is I'm going to be using his name, and it is going to be about him, and about the things that he does that he can't keep getting away with doing. For far too long now. He's had so many people he's dated or interacted with that he has completely screwed with, done horrible things to, treated horribly, and they speak up and he calls them crazy and he moves on and gets another girl and covers up all this shit with, look how cute this new relationship is, let's focus on this. And I was one of those people right after he completely trashed another woman. I was one of those cover-ups as to look how shiny this pretty thing is, let's not look at the crap, they're just crazy and gross. Now, he's been a little more careful this time, because he knows I have a bigger platform. So he's been a little more careful, because if he were to call me crazy, it wouldn't go too well. So he's tried to paint it as, oh, I love her, but we're just trying to move on. That's the best I can do. But I have a lot of information that proves that that was not an accurate portrayal of what was happening. And I have a lot of information that the entire relationship is not how he portrayed it to be. I mean, hell, I even believed him. He would tell me, no, you aren't seeing this situation for what it is. It's actually all this, and I would just believe him because I didn't want to face the shit that it actually was. Now, I've debated a million times how to do this. Last night's video, I actually filmed like 2 hours, and I'm just gonna erase all of it and not use it. Because in the last night's video, I was a little too nice to him, and in this video I need to be a little more serious because I just figured out some news tonight that has made me really sick. Like, as I'm talking to the camera, I'm really dizzy, I can't really see the camera straight, but I figured out that he's been with this new girl since basically I was barely crawling out of rehab and he was already with a new girl. I have some story about that too that I haven't been able to talk about yet, about me and his relationship after rehab, because more happened than I ever let people know. But before I get there, let me just say that he was with a new girl right barely as I was getting out of rehab for what he had put me through. He just came forward with the news that he got her pregnant. And I'm hoping this video... Okay, cat, please. You're making it hard to focus. I'm hoping this video helps her if she's watching. Sorry, I'm gonna get really emotional in this. But I hope if she watches this that she can get away before he ever even gets to see the baby. But if not, I can't control it, and I know that. He has gotten someone else pregnant before, and they were smart enough to get out before he ever had to even interact with the baby. And I hope that this girl gets to get out, but by the way that she has interacted with me so far, I really don't think it's happening. The way she's acting, obviously I didn't know her before this, but the way she's acting, I can't imagine any girl to be this hateful of a person. So I have to imagine that's her covering up the reality of what's happening to her. This video isn't about her, this video is about me. and what I've been through. I just wanted to preface with that I had no idea when I was making this video that she was ever going to come out with the news that she's pregnant, and I'm disgusted that he did that. Literally, he left me in this shit mess that he left me in and just went with a new girl and knocked her up, and it's just like, how can you leave me like that and just go on and make a new family? I always wanted to believe he is a really good person at heart because I've seen it. I've seen the good side of him, and I've wanted to believe that that was him, and he does a really, really good job at convincing you that this horrible side of him isn't the real him, and you don't want to believe it yourself either. Part of me still likes to believe that, but now there's another innocent person in the mix of it, an innocent baby. I'm just gonna be as blunt as possible, but I just want to make it clear that I was gonna make this video regardless. I've been working on it for months, so this isn't like something out of anger that I'm doing or spite. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, but I'm that kind of person that will protect a man over herself. Always. That's just always been how I am. I always pick the man over me, and it's been really, really, really hard these last 7 months to cut ties with him. There's been times where I literally like feel like I sit there and I'm like, damn, it's like I'm still dating him, but he's not here. I'm still protecting him. Everywhere we go, I have flashbacks like he's with me. This video is gonna be that push for me to leave all that behind, leave it all in 2019 and move the hell on in 2020 and give myself that push that cuts ties forever between me and him, mentally, physically, everything. See, this is why I didn't want to do my makeup, and this is why I'm wearing a crybaby shirt, but it's fine. It's only been the first few seconds of the video and I've already lost all my makeup. So this video is going to be about my experience with Johnny Craig, why I think he's dangerous, why I think girls and people in general should stay away from him until he goes and gets real help for himself, figures his life out, makes amends, and faces what he has done to so many people, faces it and truly gets help for the issues he has. I think he is completely dangerous for people to be around. I'm gonna try to keep this as short as humanly possible, so I'm gonna skim through some of the things that he's done and just say this is why he's dangerous. I don't want to go through the day I met him until the day we broke up. It's too long. There's too many things. So I'm just gonna highlight the messed up things he's done and give examples because I can't go through it all. It would take way too long. The day he flew into San Antonio, a week after I had met him, he was already using drugs. I had brought him to the hospital to try to help him. I didn't know he was on drugs. I just thought he was sick. I brought him to the hospital to try to help, and he refused to get blood work done or anything done, and so we just took him back to the hotel because he refused to have any of it done. I thought he was just insanely sick, but he was high. And he will lie and lie and lie and lie to his grave about being high. He will tell you like, oh, so I'll take a pee test, just go get one. But when it comes back positive, that's the pee test messing up. You can't be mad at me because I'm not high. And he will make you feel absolutely insane for that. And I get that that's a thing that addicts do, that they don't want to admit that they've relapsed. But that's not healthy to go through in a relationship, and he will do it to the point where he will tell you that you are the crazy one. He will make you ashamed for thinking that he's high. He will tell you, how dare you? See, this is why I don't even want to be sober, because it's not worth it, because you just think I'm using anyway. He's gotten me on my knees crying, apologizing for thinking that he's high. And it turned out he was, and that happened so many times. That alone sucks. Never knowing if he's telling the truth sucks. And he will lie and lie and lie and twist it on you and make you feel absolutely horrible for assuming he would do such a thing. He will get you on your knees apologizing to him for thinking he's high while he's high. And that sucks. And then once you catch him, he goes in a corner and cries and brings up his childhood and how messed up he is and how scared he is to admit it and blah blah blah. And you feel for him and you feel bad and you want to comfort him, and he gets away with it. And he does it again and again and again. The stuff I shared in my heroin addiction video sucks on its own. Having a partner that you can't trust, that lies to you, that's willing to shoot you up with heroin, knowing damn well that you aren't someone who messes with heroin and is willing to put you through that sucks. And that alone is dangerous. That when he gets in that mindset, he will shoot someone up. He's told me that I was not the first one he's done that to. So I know I'm not the first one. So that sucks alone. That he is shooting up girls with heroin, that fucking sucks. I've had, and I will never name names, but I've had people text me after the breakup saying, hey, I'm Johnny's friend and he got me into heroin too. That fucking sucks. Not only women, but men is he inflicting his addiction on and forcing it on them. And he doesn't do it in a way where you feel like it's forced. He just pushes and pushes and pushes until you're like, okay, and he just does it. But I know myself, as someone who now has this problem with heroin, that I would never put someone through that. I would never say, oh, you've never tried heroin? Here, let me help you try it. That's fucked up. So that alone is terrifying. And I get it. If you're an addict, you're sick, you're not in your right mind. That's fine. I can get to that point where I can accept that and say, okay, I forgive you. I can. The fact that he's done it before and he's gonna do it again to someone eventually, that I can't not put out that he's dangerous. But that's just the beginning. 2 weeks into living with me, I told you guys the story on my heroin addiction video about how he said he was gonna go get weed and he came home high as all hell on heroin. I didn't tell you guys the full extent of everything that happened because I don't like to talk about it because I don't want to admit it happened. But one of the nights, pretty sure it was that same first night, it's blurry, but it was in December of 2017. Barely after he had moved in with me. And let me tell you, I adored him. He was my favorite singer, my favorite musician. He helped me get through when I was 13 and I was raped. He helped me get through when I was 15 and I was in an abusive relationship. He helped me get through so much shit with his music. So I looked up to him so much. And so even when he did these worst things possible, I kept seeing that man that helped me. And he knew I was 20 years old and he was 32. Or 31, he's 33 now, whatever. He knew that there was a huge power dynamic. He had so much power over me. So much. I admired him. It'd be like, think of your favorite musician. It'd be like them coming to you saying they want to be with you, and then them hurting you, and then using their talent and stuff to make it better, and I'll get to that. But I didn't want to admit what he was doing to me was true, and I wanted to know that that good version, that good side of him that I kept seeing every once in a while, that if we just got through the shit, that would be my life, and I'd be with the happy version of him. I'd say like 80% of our relationship was utter shit, and then there was probably even 85%, and then there was this little time every once in a while where he would shower me with all the love and affection and everything I could ever want. He would do everything with me. He would be everything I could ever want. And then he would just disappear again. If I can't be coherent enough at any point in this, I might switch over to some footage I filmed yesterday that explains some situations a little better that I'm not too good at explaining right now, or I forget to explain. I'm just trying to get as much as I can out there. So, one of those days where he came home high and he didn't really tell me he was on heroin and I didn't really know what was going on. One time he came into the kitchen completely messed up and he told me that he's so thankful that I came into his life because before me he was talking to the most perfect, beautiful girl that had the best body in the world and the most intelligence, the perfect personality. They meshed on everything. They were great. He went on and on about how perfect her body was. He couldn't get enough of her body. Very, very oriented around that. And then he mentions that she was 17 and that's why that they weren't able to work out because the world would judge them. And so he's so glad that I came along because I was the more logical choice. And when I tell you that made me feel like the most disgusting, unlovable, just hideous person because I was like, fuck, like the only reason he's with me is because I'm safer than the 17-year-old that was perfect for him. And that's disgusting. He's 31 years old. Why can't he be more attracted to someone his own age? But I literally just went into my room and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and then he eventually came in and said he was just high and he didn't mean it and blah blah blah. And it was disgusting. It disgusted me, so I blocked it out and tried to convince myself that he was just high and that he didn't mean it. That same night, I think it was the same night, could be wrong, but that same night I think he wanted to distract me about the fact that he had just said that he was very sexually and physically attracted to the 17-year-old that he couldn't be with that was perfect, and he noticed that that made me feel kind of gross. So he wanted me to feel more focused towards like how much he wanted me. That's where I try to think this came in my head. I don't know if this is exactly what he was thinking, but that's how I try to rationalize it. But out of nowhere he starts to kiss me. And he was being so annoying, so I just thought, okay, if I start kissing him back, he'll shut up, and then I could just be kissing him, and I could focus on kissing and how great and happy I am kissing him. So I start to kiss him back, and he gets some duct tape, and he tapes up my hands, and we're in the kitchen at this moment. He tapes up my hands. He starts kissing me more. He leads me over to this mattress that we had in the living room because our furniture hadn't arrived yet. He sits me on the mattress, he kisses me more, he tapes up my legs and he tapes up my mouth, and then he says, out of nowhere, he's still high on heroin at this point, and then he says, since everyone thinks I'm a rapist, I might as well be one. And I just remember like my heart just dropped and my stomach just was in knots. I got cold and I was scared, and I immediately started to like say no, like stop, like this isn't funny. When he gets high, he makes horrible, really disgusting jokes about rape, about everything. That's what he used to do, and I cried enough times about that he eventually stopped. But when he said that, it was so disgusting. I felt horrible, and it took about 5 to 6 more minutes of me fighting him for him to finally stop and get off of me. And he looked at me and he's like, "Why are you crying?" Because I was sobbing as he was on top of me, because before he got on top of me, the last thing he said was that this was rape. And he got off of me and he just said it was a joke, and that he's sorry, and that he was just kidding. And he got mad at me for not knowing that it was a joke. Like, how dare you think I would actually do that? What I was just doing to you was a joke. It wasn't assault, it was a joke. And I just sat there and like he took the tape off of me, and I just cried and cried and cried because I could not believe what just happened. Like, I couldn't come to terms with what just happened. And this kind of stuff, like this behavior where he was just gone and not him, would happen so many times. It was scary. He would do horrifying things where I thought he was gonna just hurt me so many times. There had been times where he scared me so bad I would go hide in my animal room away from him, crying, and he would drag me by my clothes out and back into the bed and yell at me and tell me just to go to sleep. There were times where I started to self-harm when he would yell at me, because he was very, very verbally abusive when he was high. He'd call me a bitch, call me all the names, tell me to shut up, just go to sleep. There were times he'd get so scary that I would just... Ugh. I might go to a clip from yesterday because I don't want to talk right now. I feel so gross. I cannot even put into words like the number of nights where he would be going around the house in circles, making the most absurd noises, yelling, screaming, speaking, making no sense, talking to himself, being so scary that I would be sitting in the bed bawling my eyes out because I was so scared of him, begging him to just come to bed and hold me because I was so scared and I just wanted him to hold me, and he wouldn't. Like, there were nights where I cried out, like, asking him to hold me for hours, and he just said no, and to shut up, and to stop ruining his high, and that I'm being a bitch. There's a lot of nights like that, and they were so scary to me. I ended up with this technique. I'm gonna cry talking about it. I ended up with this technique of how to hold myself when I was panicking. Like how to wrap my arm around myself tight enough to where if I closed my eyes I could pretend it was him. And I did that a lot. Even sometimes when he was asleep next to me, I would have to do it because he just didn't want to hold me. And I didn't ever know what I was doing wrong to make him not want to give me affection or attention or talk to me or be there for me, but he just wouldn't. It was so scary, and it was just so bad, and some nights it would get so bad that I'd beg for him to leave, and again he'd just say he has nowhere to go and to please not make him leave. And some nights when I'd start crying because he wouldn't hold me or come comfort me, I'd cry, and then he'd reverse that on me, saying if he's such a bad person that makes me feel this shitty, he'll just leave me alone forever. And it got really dark when he was using, and scary. But I just kept thinking back to that this person was the same person that made all these songs that helped me through all these like worst experiences in my life, and that like he wrote such beautiful music and he helped me through so much with that, and that I know that that person is in there that can do all that. And if I could just help him get sober, that I would have that person back. And I kept thinking, like, if you really, he would convince me that struggling with an addiction is just an adult problem. Adults argue, you know, that's how relationships are, that there's some tough things that people go through, and that if you really love someone, that you stay there for them through that, and that you help them through that. And he really convinced me of the fact that if you love someone, you know, you help them through that, and that things will get better. And I remember one of my favorite things would ever happen during those kinds of months would be the moment he woke up the next morning. I have a lot of videos of, like, at night when he'd finally fall asleep, I would just be filming, and I'd just film me and the cats and him sleeping in bed, and I'd just be so happy in those videos because he'd just be asleep and peaceful. He wouldn't be off the walls running around. I would just have this peaceful person next to me that I would see so much in. And my favorite part would be when he'd wake up in the morning and his pupils were normal size and I could see the life in them, and he'd smile, and, you know, I would think it's all worth it. All the horrible shit's worth it because here he is again, sober and happy and here. And he'd always apologize the next day and just say, you know, sorry, it was a really bad, you know, I'm just going through a lot, and that he doesn't express it well, and that he doesn't talk about his feelings well. And he would talk to me about things that he went through growing up, a lot of trauma and abuse and neglect that he went through growing up. So then I would feel for him so deeply that when he acted out and was horrible, I would just be like, this is because of the trauma that he never addressed growing up. So then I'd end up forgiving him because I was like, he just has a lot of trauma and abuse that he's not coping with. He made me believe that I could be the first person that could push past the fucked up things that he would do and see the damaged person underneath and be there for that person, instead of name calling and saying that he does all these wrong things and shaming him. If I just didn't shame him, that we could get through it and that he could, for once in his life, address all these issues and heal. And I wanted that for him so bad. Yeah, so after that, when he wouldn't hold me, when I would cry and beg for him to hold me, I started to self-harm and hit myself because I thought I deserved it because of the way he would talk to me. So I started to hit myself. And he would scream at me and say I'm crazy and then he's gonna call the cops on me, and he'd drag me back into the room and tell me to stop, and, like, he was not comforting at all. He'd yell at me when I do that, which didn't help. So yeah, like, I know that there was a time when I filmed videos and I had, like, my hand wrapped up, and that was from when I cut myself because he was doing something so scary that I started to self-harm and beg for him to stop, and he wouldn't. There were times on tour where one time he got so mad just because I wasn't side stage. And so I was out in the van and someone runs up to me and they're like, Johnny wants you to be side stage. So I go up side stage and I'm like supporting him, cheering him on, and after he finishes, I come up to him, I'm like, good job, baby, is there anything you need? And he just says, shut the fuck up and get out of my face, and just keeps walking. And I remember just going somewhere and crying, and I started using coke to cope with that kind of stuff on tour. And his band member said that he was gonna quit the tour if I didn't stop doing coke. And so Johnny went up and, like, confronted him and told him, like, you won't talk to my girl like that, blah, blah, blah. And due to that, he comes up next to me, Johnny, and he pops a pill in front of me, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, please, he wasn't supposed to be using. And I'm like, what are you doing? Please don't do that. And he looks at me and he's like, I deserve this for defending you. Would you rather me not defended you? Because I can not stick up for you and then I won't have to use, or I could stick up for you and I get to have a fucking pill. And he yells at me like that. There was the time in Disney World that I took you there because it was my favorite place on earth, and I thought that if I took you there, everything would be great. The day before Disney, I had my Playlist Live thing. I missed my Playlist Live thing because I was sick from eating gluten at the airport, and I cried all night because of a fight we had. And then the lovely fight happened after Playlist Live. I met up with my fans at Playlist Live last minute. I had missed the panel, so I went outside and I met up with them and did like a impromptu meet and greet. And he starts blowing up my phone. First off, I begged him to come to the meet and greet with me to support me, and he told me that he felt too sick to and that he was gonna sleep at his friend's house while I was at the meet and greet. So I begged and begged and begged and told him how much it would mean to me if he came and supported me there. He refused to go. While I'm there, he starts blowing up my phone that he's at a bar, and I'm like, why are you at a bar if you said that you were too sick, like, to come support me? And I told him how sick I was feeling because I'd eaten gluten and I had the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so my joints were hurting and I was sick, and he started going off about how I'm kind of like don't really have those problems. It kind of made him sound like he was invalidating it and kind of saying I could just suck it up and do it. And I was like, no, I can't suck it up. I'm in pain. Like, he started to tell me I needed to go meet him at the bar. And I said, no, I feel way too sick. I came out here to meet my fans. I wanted your support while I was meeting my fans, but I'm not going to go to a bar. I feel way too sick for that. And he started to tell me, no, I can suck it up and come and be supportive of him at a bar doing nothing. So being me, I started to cry because I felt so bad that he was mad at me that I went to the bar, and I got dropped off on the street, and I'm limping into the bar because I feel so sick and my joints hurt and my stomach hurts, limping into the bar, and he looks at me and his eyes are tiny, he's high as hell, and he starts to be an asshole to me in front of all of his friends. So I pull him aside and I say, we need to leave, I can't be here. And he's just like, nah, I'm gonna keep getting drinks. And he just keeps getting drinks. And I was like, no, we need to fucking leave. So he apologizes to everyone that I'm being a bitch, and he takes me out and we leave with his friend. And his friend is walking with us, and I am sobbing my eyes out to Johnny while his friend is just awkwardly walking in front of us. And Johnny is being a complete horrible asshole to me, and I'm just crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And we get in the car, and I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry. And he promises me that once we get to his friend's house, he'll let me talk to him and he'll hear me out. So I stopped crying, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad that he's going to let me talk to him about how he hurt me, and I get to talk to him and we get to have this mature conversation. We get to his friend's house, and I say, okay, can I please talk to you now? I really want to talk to you about why this situation hurt my feelings. And he just says, no, I want to sleep. And I just start bawling. And I'm like, you're really not going to let me talk? You promised you would let me. And he says, no. And so I go downstairs and I sit by, there's a little river behind his friend's house, and I'm just sitting there crying. And he follows me down there and he's like, come on, let's go to bed. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go sleep next to you right now. I feel really sad. I feel really sad that you treated me this way all night, that you couldn't support me at this thing that meant so much to me, but you could go out and get drunk and then expect me to go and then cheer you on for being drunk, and then get mad at me for being a bitch at the bar, and then promise to let me talk about how this hurt me, and then not let me talk. I feel horrible. And as I'm explaining all this, he interrupts me and says, look, if you're gonna keep talking to me like a fucking cunt, you can go in that river and drown. I almost left him that night because I was in Florida and my mom was in Florida, and I kept remembering, like, if I just texted her and told her what he just said to me, I could get away from this and I could be done. The thought also crossed my mind again that if I just went upstairs and shut up and went to bed, that the next morning we'd be going to Disney World and that things would be okay. So instead of facing what just happened, I knew if I just went upstairs and went to sleep, it'd be okay. So eventually I went upstairs and I fell asleep. And we went to Disney World the next day. And he never really apologized. He just kind of said, like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you can't talk to me when I'm drunk. Like, you can't expect me to be nice when I'm drunk. You know better than that. You know how tired I get when I'm drunk, and I'm not gonna be able to be coherent and talk to you when I'm drunk. So that was his excuse for telling me I'm a fucking cunt to drown in the river. Then we get to Disney World, and while we are at the bar in Disney World, we are drinking downstairs in our hotel. He tells me that he wants my friend to go into my house, my assistant, to go into my house at home, find his weed, and give some weed to his friend. And I tell him I don't want my friend who has a baby to go have to worry about selling or giving weed to your friend. And she was scared because she's like, I don't really know Johnny's friends, and I don't want to bring my baby around Johnny's friends because who are they? Like, I don't want to bring my baby around someone who's doing drugs. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right, and I'm not gonna make you. And he gets so fucking mad at me. He tells me my friend's a bitch, that she's stupid, that I can't hang out with her anymore, that she needs to shut the fuck up and just hand him weed, all this stuff. And I get so scared of him and so tired of him speaking that way that I get up and I just start walking to our hotel room, hoping to beat him there, to close the door and not let him come in, and I could just go to sleep and he can just go get as drunk as he wants and stay the hell away from me. Well, he starts to follow me to the hotel room, and he starts ganging up on me, and I get in the hotel room first and I go to shut the door, but he's outside and he pushes the door open, pushes me out of the way, throws me into the wall physically where the refrigerator hits the wall really hard because I got thrown into the refrigerator, and he just goes and gets in bed, and I just fall to the floor crying my eyes out, and he says, "Can you please shut up? I'm trying to sleep." So I get up and I leave. I just wanted to go to sleep. I didn't want to sit there and face the fact that he just threw me into a fridge. I think I have some of the texts about it. I don't remember exactly what I was saying. Basically, the next morning he says he didn't throw me into the wall. He shoved me out of the way because I was holding the door shut, and that it was an accident, and that basically all he was doing was trying to open the door. But he opened the door and then got in my body and threw me into the wall and went to bed. So no, he didn't just move the door. He physically laid his hands on me and threw me into a wall. The thought crossed my mind again. I could leave. But then I remembered, like, if I just go to sleep, he will be sober in the morning and everything will be okay. And that was just my fucking mantra the entire time I was with him. Is like, it'll be better in the morning. If I just fucking go to sleep, it'll be better in the morning. And so I went in the other bed and I started to cry, and after about an hour he woke up. He saw I was in the other bed. He was more sober. He says, "Come on, come to bed, like, come here, babe." And he gets me in the bed and he holds me for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, everything's okay again. He still loves me. I love him. Everything's okay. And then we went and we had a good time in Disney. We ran into my mom there. My little brother liked him. We had fun, and that was reassuring to me that, like, things aren't that bad. He always told me that adults get into fights and adult relationships have problems, and that's all this was, is that it's an adult, mature relationship. We're different people. We, you know, get combative sometimes, but that's just because we're so, you know, we're different people trying to live together. And that he's not abusive, because, like, remember how he cooks for me, and remember how he takes me out to my favorite dinner, remember how he's taking me in Disney World to all my favorite restaurants, remember how my little brother loves him, remember how he's being nice to them, remember how he's doing this and this and this, and he just kept telling me, like, remember all this? This means I love you, and it means I don't want to hurt you, and if I have hurt you, I'm just struggling with this addiction, and that's not me. And he really had me convinced that this mean, evil side of him was his addiction, and as long as we beat that, I would have just the nice side of him, and that's it. I bought him his $40,000 teeth. I'm not mad about that. I don't want a penny of it back. I have said before, like, out of spite and anger, that I want money back. I don't. I did that as a gift. And I don't like making people feel bad for gifts, because that was a gift. He did say that he would pay me back eventually, but I didn't want him to, really. I didn't care. So I'm not angry that I did that, but I'm angry that he said that that would make him stop using, which now that I know more about addiction, I know that that's not true. But he made me feel like if he just got out of the pain that he had with his teeth, that he wouldn't want opiates anymore. So I paid 40 grand. We were broke for months. I pulled everything out of my investments, that I had so much money in my investment accounts. I pulled it all out to pay for your teeth. I had no money. I had $0 for like 2 months, which isn't bad, but it was just scary that I had no money of my own, couldn't pay bills, had to borrow money from your friends to get through things. Like, I did all that for you. And you abused the pills they gave you to heal for your teeth. You didn't do the healing thing properly. You immediately started drinking and eating hard foods. You've broken them twice. You don't take care of them. You went on IV heroin after it. So no, it didn't help you get out of it. Not that I expect, now that I know more about addiction, I know that's crazy. But you've known about addiction for 10 years, so you knew that was crazy, and yet you still lied to me that it would make everything better. I'm not as angry about those parts, the parts that are just, you know, you are battling your addiction and you can't be honest with yourself about things. It sucks, and it's not healthy for someone to be in a relationship with that, and that does suck. But I'm more angry about the literal verbal abuse, you laying your hands on me, you saying you're gonna just be a rapist and getting on me and violating me. That's what I'm angry about, and my cat is too. I'm sorry, that was a bad joke, but I try to cope with jokes. On one of the states we were in on tour, we got into a horrible fight about the fact that he buys me drugs, and then he says that since I'm using, he has to relapse. So he would buy me drugs and then get mad at me for using them and basically manipulate the situation into him using. And I told him that I never wanted to use drugs again because of that, and that I will never touch them again because of that, and we got in a big fight. And it got so bad that I said I wanted to kill myself, and your response was, please shut up. I was suicidal. You know I was. I threw a glass at the wall and broke it and got glass and said I was gonna kill myself, and you said, like, just shut up, I'm trying to sleep, be quiet, blah blah blah. You didn't care. You literally said, well, what the fuck do you expect me to do? Talk you down from it? I'm trying to sleep. And you said you needed sleep because of tour, and that me feeling like I want to die is a nuisance on you. So I broke the glass and I took it with me and I left, and you did not text me once, you didn't care, you weren't worried, you did not care if I was out there killing myself. And I definitely thought about it. Instead, I ended up chain smoking and then going back inside and just shutting up and sitting down next to you in bed and crying and crying and crying. And I cried for about 8 hours while you slept, and you didn't give a shit. You didn't comfort me, you didn't ask if I was okay, you didn't hold me, you didn't do anything. I tried to wake you up multiple times telling you I was scared and that I needed you. You didn't care. You didn't wake up, you just rolled over. I was uncontrollably shaking at one point. I literally could not stop shaking, and I was having a panic attack. I couldn't breathe, and you sat there, rolled over, so you didn't have to hear me as much, and slept. Again, you blamed me the next day, saying I shouldn't talk about such sensitive stuff while you're trying to sleep. I always say Arizona is my least favorite state on earth, and now you're gonna know why. First time in Arizona, you did the whole I'm gonna buy you Coke thing, but I won't use because I know I can't control using thing. This is, again, before I really understood addiction, so please don't, I know that that doesn't work now. You did that, the girl arrived that was gonna buy me the Coke, so I went with her to go get it. You had a friend come while I was out getting it, and you got heroin while I was out. While I was out with that girl, she started talking about sexual assault. I got really emotional, and I went to text Johnny saying, I'm really sad, I don't feel good right now. She's talking about something that's bringing up a lot of feelings, can you please be there for me? And all you replied with was, buy me a Coke on the way up. And I was like, what are you talking about? Can you please answer your phone calls? I'm freaking out. Tried to call you multiple times because I was starting to feel really sad. You wouldn't answer. I knew immediately you were not sober anymore, because sober you would answer. When I got back with my friend, I went and I got you the Coke, and we went upstairs. I brought you your little bottle of Coke. I had my actual Coke. You were writing in blood on the walls. You called the girl that brought me Coke a bitch for defending me because you were being really rude to me, and she said stop talking to her like that, and you said stop being a bitch. She left because I didn't want her to have to deal with that. I told her she could leave, that she didn't have to see anyone talk to her that way. So I told her to leave. I told your friend with the heroin to leave, and I sat there all night watching you write in blood on the walls, and I was in bed shaking because I was so scared of you. Eventually, you were so scary to deal with alone that I texted your bandmates and asked if we could come over. You told me that I had to tell them that you were only on Coke, not heroin. So I told them that, and they of course didn't believe me because they know you so well. They know what you on heroin looks like. So we got there, and you were acting so absurd that we all collectively decided to go out somewhere so we weren't having to sit in a room and deal with you, because you are unbearable. You are insane on heroin. You are writing in blood on the walls, screaming vulgarities, taking your clothes off, trying to fight people, calling them names. You are horrible. So we go out in public, and while we're in the car, the Uber driver is trying to talk to people, and you keep screaming over the Uber driver, Old MacDonald Had a Farm, singing really annoying songs. So I tell you, please, for the love of God, be quiet. And you tell me, okay, I will. Like, okay, I'm done. I won't say anything else. And I said, if you do one more thing, I'm not going to be able to handle it, and I need to get away from you because I've been spending all night watching you write in blood on the walls, trying to fight people, talking over people, being annoying and abrasive and just crazy. So we get out of the car, the Uber, and we start walking down the street, and a man bumps your shoulder, and you turn around and get up in his face and try to fight him. I can't handle it. I start crying, I leave, your friend has to order me an Uber, and I get up and I just go to my hotel, and I sit there and I cry my eyes out. I have you on my phone where I'm able to track your location. So I see you're going all over town, into bars, all over the place. After about an hour, I get insanely suicidal sitting in the hotel room that's covered in blood. I get so suicidal, just reliving in my head all these events of how crazy you act on drugs. I text your bandmates again and ask if I could come over, and they say, okay, we're going back to the house, you can meet us there. I stay all night crying my eyes out about all the things you've done that have hurt me to your bandmates all night, and they're the first people that have consoled me in months. They're the first people in months to tell me what you did wasn't okay. They're the first people to listen to my feelings. They're the first people to tell me not to shut up when I say I'm hurting. They're the first people to listen to me and remind me that what you're doing isn't okay. Johnny was all I saw every day, 24 hours a day, for almost a year. Like, that he's the only person I was around. So hearing someone else listen and say, hey, that's not okay, was insane. Like, I was like, wait, it's not? Like, it's not just an adult relationship? Like, wait, what? Like, you got it in my head so much that you were not the crazy one, that I really was believing it, and that I really was thinking I was this overdramatic, unbearable person to be around that was just so emotional and always crazy and hurting herself and threatening to kill herself because she's crazy. You really had me thinking that. And these were the first people in a long time to tell me, wait, no, your feelings make sense. So after that, I get really worried about you because I don't know where you are. So eventually I see that you're at the hotel. It's 11 a.m. the next day. I go in an Uber, I get to our hotel, and you have trashed it. I think I have some pictures. You pissed in all of the drawers. You opened up all the fucking drawers and pissed in them. You broke the mirror. You have someone else's ID on the floor. You had a $200 charge on my credit card for a taxi service because apparently the security had to drive you home because you got so belligerently just hostile at a club that they had to take you home in a security thing. I don't even know. We get banned from that hotel. I have to pay for them to renovate the room out of my own money. And then we get through the next few days. You film that video, that music video for your song, The Pact. Yeah, that really emotional song. Yeah, that was a great day to film that. So that was my first experience in Arizona. Second experience in Arizona, we were at a concert and I thought he was using. And this was after, you know, weeks of sobriety. And I thought, oh God, he's using drugs again. He denied it and denied it and denied it and denied it. And I was like, no, I know what you look like when you're using. I know you're using. He denied it and denied it and denied it. Then his friend came up to me so drunk that he admitted that he had given Johnny drugs. And so I confronted Johnny and I was like, your friend just admitted to me that he gave you these drugs. I know you're on them. You need to be honest with me. So he goes and pulls his friend back. His friend looks me in the face and says, I never said that to you. You're making it up. Johnny goes off of that. For he knows he's on drugs while he's doing this. And he goes off of that and is like, yeah, that's just like Taylor. She always accuses me of being high just so she can go get high. That's just like her. She's just being a bitch trying to ruin everything because she wants a reason to use. And she has no reason to use unless I'm using. So she's trying to make me look like the bad guy so she can go and use. Blah, blah, blah. He goes on and on making me feel horrible. I could not believe he was speaking to me that way. It was out in public. His fans were in line to go to the show on the other side. I was back on the other side outside behind the building in a corner crying, being cornered by him and his friend, being told I'm making everything up. And I looked up to Johnny and I'm like, Johnny, why are you being so mean to me? You know I'm not making this up. Why are you being so mean to me? Like, why? And he gets down on my level, looks me in my eyes and says, because Taylor, this is my fucking tour. And he gets up and he walks away. He goes on stage, he breaks a mic, he gets arrested. Yay! Then I was so messed up from the whole night watching him get arrested that I got in an Uber, drove to my hotel, texted the girl that I met last time in Arizona with the coke and was like, just bring over as much as you can. I feel like I want to die. So she brought over a bunch of coke. I sat there in my hotel room with everyone else from the tour, brought a bunch of people over from the tour, other bands and stuff, and we're just in my hotel room doing drugs. Then I open his laptop to change our flight because he's in jail. So I go to book a flight to take us home the next day, or to take us to the next location on this tour the next day since he's in jail. I open his laptop, type in his password, which is I love Taylor 1212. His iCloud is attached to it, and up pops up a million messages of him buying heroin at like every location. Also him talking to a girl since before he even knew me about how much better she was than me, how much more perfect she was than me, how much hotter she was than me, how much everything about her was better than me, how he wishes he could be with her, and if it wasn't for me he would be. If I wasn't sleeping on top of him he would go see her. If only I wasn't being so dumb by sleeping on him. And when I tell you that broke a part of me that I never got back, seeing him talk that way to someone when he hadn't touched me or slept with me in months, seeing him say that to her during the time that I was helping him recover from his teeth surgery, I was helping feed him, I was cooking for him, I was doing things for him, and he's in bed with a phone that I'm paying for the phone service of, and he's talking to a girl like that. I never loved myself again in that relationship. Whatever little bit I did, I hated myself. I thought I was ugly. I thought I was hideous. I thought I was unlovable. I thought he wouldn't want to touch me. I tried to leave him that day, but him and his dad railroaded me on the phone trying to say, please just talk it out in person, just talk it out in person. He had horrible excuses for it. He never apologized. For the next entirety of our relationship, he would hold that over me. Anytime I got sad or insecure about it, he'd be like, you gotta let this go, or how am I supposed to be with you if you can't get over this? Like, what's the point of being together if you can't get over this? Every single time he ever touched me again, that's all I saw in my head were these texts to this girl. Every time he ever kissed me or touched me or made moves on me to try to sleep with me. That's all I saw. I never loved myself again after that. And I remembered back to when we got in a relationship together. He made a promise to me that he would never use drugs with me. He would never use again after he met me, and he would never cheat on me. And those were his 2 promises. And when he broke the first promise of using drugs, he says, well, I will never touch a needle, I promise you that. So he kind of broke the first one, he kind of broke the second one, but at least he didn't pick up a needle, I thought. I mean, I was like thinking, as broken as I was like, at least he hasn't picked up a needle. At least I still have that promise. He's broken every other promise, but at least he hasn't picked up a needle. So when I tell you that day when I found the needle in the bathroom, and that day I ended up using 2, that's because that was the last promise he had ever kept to me that I found that was broken, and I just didn't care anymore about anything. And finally I was like, I will do anything for him to love me, even if that means shooting up heroin. Because if I'm high and I'm on heroin, I'm on his favorite drug. I'm the only girl he's ever met that's gonna be willing to shoot up heroin for him. Which now I found out that there's another girl before me that he did that to, so it doesn't even matter. But in my head I was like, he's done all these horrible things to me. He's betrayed me in a million ways. But if I shoot up heroin, and if I stay on heroin, that will always be something that I have that he's never found in anyone else. So eventually I became willing to just risk my life on heroin just for him to be attracted to me. Or for him to be like, wow, she must love me if she's on heroin. I became so desperate to connect to him that I was willing to be on heroin for him. And from that day forward, I refused to get sober because I knew if I got sober and he went back to heroin, I would have nothing. So I didn't get sober, and I refused to get sober until the day we broke up. Because for me, if I got off heroin and he got off heroin and then a week later he got back on it, I would have fucking nothing. And I would have gone through all the withdrawals and all the pain of getting sober for no reason, just to watch him go back to it. I just wanted to be enough for him. I didn't want him to think I was disgusting. I didn't want him to want another girl over me. I didn't want him to be so mad at me. I didn't want him to call me a bitch. I didn't want him to call me a cunt. I didn't want him to think I'm crazy. I didn't want him. I wanted him to just look at me and be in love with me. That's all I ever wanted, was for him to love me as much as I loved him. And I thought if I was on a heroin that he would. Also, right after he cheated on me, while we were arguing over him coming home, he posted this. So he would do that a lot. When I was being hurt by him, he would post on the internet how much he loves me. And I even have texts that I still have talking to people about, I'm so confused why he will say that to the world, but he won't say it to me. He wasn't telling me those things in person, he was just saying it on the computer. But there were times where I saw someone that I thought was worth staying for. He looked up eventually how to help me with my anxiety attacks. So when I would have panic attacks, he'd come sit next to me and help ground me and come back to reality. But normally the panic attacks I'd be having were because of him. So he would drive me into these panic attacks and then sit there and comfort me. And it got into this fucked up place where even after I left him, I had no clue how to comfort myself without him. My camera's dying, but I'm gonna try to finish this up. Also just got another notification that the girl's denying ever speaking to me, which is awesome, because she definitely spoke to me and we said a lot of things to each other, and then she completely switched up on me, which is why I'm thinking he's in her head. Anyway, we have, our birthdays are next to each other. I'm the 25th, he's the 26th. He ruined all my birthdays. My mom got me flowers for my birthdays. She got me daisies. He got me flowers for my birthday. So he insisted to me that my mom was making fun of him for getting flowers, that she was trying to copy him intentionally to get a better flower than him. All this shit. It was completely bullshit, but it got me so sad that I threw my mom's flowers at the wall and broke them, and it was the first gift I had from my mom in a long time, because we stopped talking because of him. And it meant so much to me that she came and she saw me and she gave me those flowers, and he would not stop bitching about them until I threw them in a wall and broke them. And he told me that we would have a do-over of my birthday the next day since he ruined that one. And the next day, he chose where to go, which was Dave & Buster's. And we went there, and he was high, so he ruined my do-over birthday also. And the next birthday, I was in bed on heroin, and I slept through it because I was too sick from heroin. And the birthday present he got me, he used my card to get me. He went and he got it, he gave it to me. He used my credit card to get it. And then when I found out on my credit card, that he used my credit card to get it. He insisted that he just put a little bit on my card and then he used the rest on his card. But no, I looked up the price for the gift he bought me and it was completely my card. So the only gifts I'd ever get were actually from myself, but if I pointed that out, he'd get really insecure because he didn't have money and then he'd cry about it, and I didn't want to hurt him, so I didn't really care. I'd let him buy whatever gifts he wanted using my card because at least he was thinking about me, you know? But then also at the same time, I was the one that paid for the entire everything. He paid rent every once in a while. I will give him that. 15% of the time probably paid rent. And maybe less than that, 10%. But he would introduce, like, when I got that really nice new house, he would introduce to his friends as his house, and people would be like, oh man, I can't believe you could afford this house, dude. That's so cool. And he'd be like, yep, it's my house. When I bought a mattress that was like $6,000, he went online and was like, I just bought a $12,000 mattress. It was me and it was $6,000, but he would hype it up. So he was constantly bragging about things that I would do, pretending it was him, taking all the credit. And I felt so bad for him because he didn't have a lot of money, so then I would let him do it because I wanted him to feel good and I wanted him to be happy. So yeah, I paid for our whole drug addiction. It was about $80,000 in total. I paid every penny of it. I bought all the drugs. Sometimes it would get to me, sometimes it would make me sad, like when he would lie about where he got the Christmas presents, or when I barely had any money and the only money I did have he was using on shoes and stuff. That sucked. But I was happy to see him happy, so it was worth it to me most of the time. Whatever I had to do to get him happy was so worth it to me. I just think it's fucked up that he, on his part, that he gets to do all this to so many women and leave them feeling so fucked up, and then now what if he just doesn't do it anymore? I hope she gets away before he does anything, but I also hope he pays for what he's, like, I want him to pay for what he's done somehow. I don't want him just to move on with his life super happy and perfect. I don't know what paying for it looks like. I don't think he's gonna ever go to jail or anything, but I want him to, in his head, to know what he did, and I don't want him to be able to silence the people who have been through this shit. And I'm not gonna name names because it's not my story to tell, but his ex is having to say that they've been beaten by him, that they've been held down and tried to get heroin forced inside of them while she's holding them down because he's so high. A girl complaining that he doesn't have sex with them, just like I would complain about, because I'd feel so unwanted and unlovable because he would refuse to have sex with me. And then him getting so high that he rapes her. I want him to have to sit there and realize what he did and feel how shitty it feels and come to terms with it. I don't want him to just get away with it and have this fucking family now. He doesn't deserve to be around a baby. I don't care if it's his baby. He's not safe around it. Seeing what he can do the second life goes wrong, the second things go wrong. There was a hate video made about him. Things were going great. He was 6 months sober. There was a hate video made about him, and he comes inside high as fuck saying he couldn't control it and he had to use because the hate video got to him, and he was insane, being crazy, off the walls. I had to hold him back from running in the hallways naked. He was fucking crazy. And if he can go from normal to that so quick, he does not need to be around a baby. And it's not like he's had years to get better and now he might be safe around a baby. He left me in rehab. I tried to leave him. I failed, by the way. When I got out of rehab, I reached out to him. I told him I couldn't do this. He made me feel like shit for trying to be with someone else, so I dropped them. I got back with him mentally. I talked to him every single day. I made plans to be with him again. I was days away from being with him again when I found out he was with her. All because I couldn't face this shit. And it was easier to have him come and comfort me and say, no, those things didn't happen. I was just a little messed up. I'm better now. I love you. I wanted him to tell me he loved me so bad that I was willing to get back into it. I was willing to risk getting back on heroin. I was willing to go through the hell I went through every day just so he could tell me, just so he could be the one to reassure me. I knew very well in my head that he hurt me. But I also knew that he was the only thing that made me feel better too. So I was trying to get back with him. He made plans. He told me I was the only person he's ever loved. He told me he'll never find love again. He had this girl the whole time. I had no idea because I refused to check his social medias because I can't see his face. I can't see his face. I can't hear his voice. I just can't. So I didn't know he was with this girl. And we were talking and we were making plans and I said, like, when can we meet up? He's like, give me a day to decide, like, all this shit. And then I found out that he was with her and I contacted her and I let her know and she blamed me for everything, said it's all my fault, said that I deserve everything, that I deserve to go through this, but she doesn't, but I do. And then she stayed, and I think she stayed for the same reasons I stayed, which is why I'm trying so hard to just say it's not anything to do with her and it's all to do with him. For 10 years now, he's been leaving this trail of women who all have these horrible stories, and men, I've spoke to many men since coming out about this. Many people who have known him have contacted me with their own horror stories about him. About them witnessing himself throwing himself on girls, about them witnessing him doing horrible things, about them being attacked by him. There's so many stories. That's why I'm so scared for her, because I know how that feels, to feel like you kind of want to leave because you hate the abuse, but you want to stay for the day it gets better, or denying it's abuse because there's far worse abuse out there. Like, yeah, he threw me around sometimes. Yeah, he did that whole I'm a rapist thing. Yeah, he spoke to me horribly. He called me a bitch. He called me a cunt. He told me to shut the fuck up. He told me all these horrible things. But it wasn't like he was daily beating the shit out of me every day or something like that. It wasn't like, I don't know, I would always just compare it to how it could be worse. And I would also remember the moments where he was perfectly in the moment helping me with my anxiety attacks, where he was calming me down, where he was supporting me, where he was cheering me on, where he was helping me with my animals, where he was doing this and that, and when the people online would get to me, he'd be there to like help me. I remember that too. And in my head I'm like, well, it could be worse. Like, that's always how I rationalized it. And I mean, it got to a point where my career was shit. Everyone thought I was a joke because I was with someone horrible and having to publicly backing him. I was losing all my money to him. I was dying. He shot me up multiple times where I thought I was overdosing. I did overdose once, by the way, and I puked on the ground and I was overdosing, and he told me since my heart didn't stop, it wasn't an overdose, and he left me there to overdose while he went and sat in the hot tub for like 6 hours and I was overdosing inside. And he didn't care. And he made me feel like I was over-emotional, just asking too much of him, and just demanding too much. That no normal relationship could handle what I was asking from him. When it first came out that I was kind of trying to leave him, like in the first month, he got out of the car and we were on the side of the road and he just got me out of the car, and he got out of the car and he was just done with me, and I remember just sobbing on the floor begging him not to leave me, and I was just thinking in my head, like, why am I doing this when I'm trying to leave? There were times I begged for him to leave, like screamed, please get out of the house and don't touch me, and he wouldn't. He would not leave. He'd say he was going to be homeless somewhere. The few times that I would get him to leave for a few hours, he'd go do something so scary that I'd beg for him to come home. I mean, there was one time I was so scared of him. He got out of the shower so fucking high that he screamed at me until I fell into a corner, and he was screaming and screaming, and I was in a corner holding myself, begging him to stop, and he wouldn't. So I got up and I grabbed a knife and I was like, please don't get near me, please leave. He wouldn't leave. So then I got in my car and I drove somewhere and I slept in the car because I was so scared of him. And then I came back an hour later and he remembered none of it, insisted it didn't happen. I had to call his therapist and talk on the phone with him through the speaker because he didn't believe it happened. And that's what scares me. He's not in the recovery program. He's not getting help. He just put down the heroin and still has all the disgusting stuff inside of him there, just waiting as a ticking time bomb to explode. And the second it goes wrong, that's what I'm scared about with this video. I don't know if he's gonna see this and be like, yay, now I'm gonna relapse. I don't know how he's still alive. I'm so scared to trigger something that will be his like final downfall. I don't want that to be what this is. I want him to go somewhere, get away from people, stop being a danger to people, stop being a danger to himself, go get help, realize what he's done to so many fucking people, realize what he's done to so many women, acknowledge it, and get help for his mental problems. He is not okay. The point is that he shouldn't be around anyone, and in the future, if they don't work out, he's gonna look for another girl immediately, and I'm hoping this story is gonna get out there enough where people can see him and say, okay, I need to stay away, because he's gonna tell you he's better. He's gonna tell you he was just using and that, you know, that it was a bad mistake. Basically, I'll end this on that I am still 7 months later trying really hard to move on, and I don't know how to. I have nightmares every night. I barely eat. Only thing I do ever is go to IOP and cry about it. At the beginning, it got so bad that I left out anything that he did that was borderline abusive towards me, or just straight up abuse. I never know what to label it. I don't want to over exaggerate and say it was something and then people be like, wow, it's not that bad, because I don't know. I don't know if I'm in my head and I'm making it worse than it actually is. Everything I'm saying is exactly how it happened, but I'm just saying I don't want to call something horrible abuse if it really wasn't that bad, because see, he's still in my head and I still think maybe it wasn't that bad. But all I know is even in therapy I left out anything that I thought would make them not like him, just so they could tell me I still had a chance with him. I didn't want to have to go through everything I went through with him just to have to sit here alone healing. I wanted to go through it all with him for it to get better and for him to love me. And in my head, when I left him, I was like, this is too hard to face. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with, not only now do I have to deal with recovering from him, I also have to recover from heroin and the shit that all of that brings. But I mean, there was a point where, like, if anyone even held my hand, I would close my eyes and wish it was him. And I thought that was so fucked up because he's so horrible. But I had this weird trauma bond with him where even though he inflicted the trauma on me, I wanted him to be the one to say it's okay and make it better. It reminded me of like Stockholm Syndrome or something, where it's like, I know this person is bad for me, but I also want them to be the same person to hold me and apologize for what they're doing that's messed up. And I don't care how bad it gets, I don't care what he does, I don't care if he almost kills me. One day he was looking in my neck to try to shoot me up, and he was like, you know, if I do this wrong, it'll kill you. And I'm just like, I don't care, like, I just want to be with you. And I want to be enough for you. I was just another person to use to run from the last thing he did that was really fucked up. And he's gonna keep doing that, and he's gonna keep finding women to be with to run from the last mistake until he finds one that won't leave. So I guess I'm gonna end it on this. I don't know when I'm gonna heal from this. I was scared to do this video solely because I knew if I put this out he would hate me, and I can't imagine what he's gonna say about me. Like, when he watches this, he's either just gonna make fun of me, say like I'm ugly or something and stupid and liar and crazy, and he's not gonna ever love me. After he sees this, he's never gonna love me again, if he ever did. And that's why I never wanted to come forward. I always told him, like, even if we broke up and we never spoke again, I would never do this because I wanted him to look back and remember me and love me. And I know he won't when he sees this, and that sucks. Literally right before we broke up, the last thing he asked me, before he had to go to his dad's for a week, he didn't even know we were breaking up, but he wanted me to sign an NDA so I couldn't say this stuff. Just in case, when I had him go away for a week, I tried to leave. He wanted me to get this all signed because that was his number one concern, was protecting him. He wasn't concerned about me and going through my withdrawals for the first time in my life, heroin withdrawals. He wasn't concerned about anything about my health, my safety, my well-being. He was worried about me signing an NDA so I couldn't say all this stuff. And that really shows that he knows what he did was wrong. That means he's not unaware of all the messed up things he's done. He knows. And I know I'm forgetting a ton of stuff in this story. I know that there's so much more messed up stuff he's done that I am not mentioning because I just can't get it all in a video. I'll end it on, I don't know when I'm gonna heal. I have nightmares every night. It would be easier just to go back and be with him, so I don't have to face all this shit and I could just lie to myself for those few moments that are normal where he helps me with things and is nice and is loving. That'd be great. The music he wrote about me and how much he loved me made me feel like I was doing something right by staying and helping him. All the posts he'd post online about how much he loves me, that would always be after a big fight. I don't know when I'm gonna heal from all this shit because it would be a lot easier to go back and lie to myself like that. Because I loved him so much. Every minute he opened his eyes, like the minute he would open his eyes and I'd see his pupils and he was sober and happy, it would mean so much to me. Like, my heart would just light up because I adored him. And I just wanted to help him get to his best self, help him get through all of his demons and everything, but he ended up, I couldn't. And no one can, and that's the point. You're not gonna be the one to fix him. The next girl isn't going to be the one to fix him. He has to go get help and fix himself, or he is never going to get better, and the cycle will only continue and continue and continue and continue. He has raped multiple women. He has assaulted multiple women. Verbally, physically, he is a dangerous person. Addiction doesn't make you a bad person at all. And there is something much deeper and scarier wrong in there. There's something messed up. I don't know if it's because of the trauma he endured as a kid and now he's just repeating it as himself onto other women. I don't know. I don't think I don't know what he is. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks he's a real person who's just so fucked up and needs actual help and has never gotten it. But the other side of me knows how many opportunities he's had to get help and how many times he said, no, I'm gonna just keep repeating these fucked up mistakes and going on to the next girl. When I was suicidal, when we were talking and I was a day away from flying out and being back with him, I told him I was gonna overdose and die, and I meant it, that I was gonna go find drugs that night, and I meant it. This was a few months ago. I meant it, that I was just done, because I knew he had a new girl. I knew I didn't matter. She said those things about me, and I just knew I didn't matter, and I told him how much it hurt, and he had blocked me, and he never spoke to me again. I wrote him a big long email about how much I love him and how much I just want to hear that he's sorry for all these things. And he said, I'll read this eventually, and I never heard from him again. And I'm glad I didn't, because it gave me enough time to detach and realize the reality of things. But he was another drug for me. He was another heroin for me. He was my heroin, honestly. I didn't really care about heroin. I cared about connecting with him. And now, for the last 7 months, I keep struggling with relapsing, because if I was on heroin right now, I'd feel a little bit closer to him. And I just want to feel normal again. I don't want to go to sleep and remember all the disgusting things he did to me and said to me, and all the times he looked so evil into my eyes, and all the times he lied to me, and all the times he made me feel crazy. But I'm so happy that now I'm gonna get the chance once I may not feel happy right now, but I will be, that I'm gonna get the chance to move on from this. And that I'm actually gonna find, you know, a real love and someone who's actually gonna treat me right. I mean, I've already made so many different connections now with people that already speak to me in a way that I've never been spoken to, in a nice way, in something that he never gave me. He never was attentive like that and caring, and hopefully this story just gets around enough that people know he's dangerous, and I hope this will help someone. If you are dealing with someone who speaks to you that way, who lays their hands on you, even if it's just occasionally, like with me, so I don't think it's actually like, oh, he's not abusive because he doesn't blatantly do these things, he acts out of anger because he can't handle me or something. No, you don't deserve that. Not physically, not verbally. Ghost is sleeping next to me. All I know is I got to a place where this is all I ate every day. I'd eat a few of these every day and that was it. I thought I was hideous, I thought I was ugly. I didn't have sex with him for like 8 months because I didn't even want anyone to touch me because I thought I was so gross. He took my entire personality, everything from me. I was a zombie. But I thought I was okay because at night I could feel him next to me, and that was enough. And Johnny, you may have done this to multiple people that don't have a platform as big as yours, so when they speak up and say these things happen, you have a bigger audience and you could say they're heartbroken and that they're acting and they're being hateful because they are heartbroken. Because that's what you would tell me, is like, yeah, you did treat them badly, you won't deny that because, you know, you're a bad boyfriend on heroin, but you didn't do these horrible things. And that's what you always told me, and maybe that's what you want to believe, but I know it's not true. And you would always get them somewhat silenced. I mean, there was still a community of people that followed them and believed them, but a majority, you know, your fans would continue to support you. And you'd use your next girl to show, look how good my life is. Look, another girl loves me. I must not be an abusive piece of shit. I don't think you deserve to die or anything. I think you need to get help. I don't think you deserve to be in a relationship right now because you are going to hurt them and then you're going to hurt yourself and nothing gets better. I want to get to the place where I could say I forgive you for everything and mean it, but I can't when you say it didn't even happen. I'm really hoping this video gives me some clarity and peace with the fact that I know I've been heard. Yeah. Half of this video is going to be donated if I make any money on it. I don't know if I will. Half of this money is going to be donated to a women's shelter and like for abuse victims, and the other half is going to be donated to drug abuse programs, recovery programs. If I do make any money on this. I don't know if I will. I don't even think it'll be monetized. But if it gets monetized, that's the only that I'm not gonna make money off of it. Just wanted to clear that up. I am 100% positive that if I would have never left him, I would have died from heroin or from suicide. Judging from the number of suicide attempts I had, or suicide plans I had, because I never really went and attempted it except once. Once I did purposely try to overdose and I didn't. And this is only my story, of course. So you might hear the story and be like, yeah, it's bad, whatever, it's not that bad, or whatever. I don't know what you're gonna think of it. But just know that there's like 10 other women. I don't even know, there might be more. There's so many other women that have been through shit like this with him. So that's where it gets scary. I mean, it's already scary, but I mean, it's like, how many more is there gonna be? So I'm the first one with a bigger platform. So I feel like I need to speak the fuck up. I'm really sorry if some of this wasn't coherent or if I didn't do this well. I'm really sorry if I messed this up or fucked it up or something. I'm trying to keep it as short as humanly possible, but also share everything that happened and not be too emotional, even though I've been crying this whole time, because, you know, cry baby. But I'm trying to do this right, and I'm trying to do it in a way where, like, I expose him and expose the danger that there is, but also not send a complete mob of just, like, telling him to die. I do think he deserves some backlash from this, but I mean, just trying to do it in a way where he gets what is appropriate for him, which, I mean, is a lot of shit. Abusing women is not something you should just get off with. But I'm just saying, like, he has someone who has a baby right now. So I want to make sure the baby's okay. I'm hoping this story will help, and I'm hoping that anyone that has to go through this ever again with him, or is going through this right now with him, hears some similarities, and know how much worse it can get. And no matter how much he tells you he loves you, because he told me he loved me much more than anyone he's ever met, that I'm the one for him. Do you guys remember how much shit he put online about how he finally found the one right person for him, and that he's never experienced love like this, and this is the first time in his life he's ever had this, and that he does that to every single girl. So you're not special, and I don't mean that in a way to hurt you, but if you get with him again, if you're someone after me, you're not special to him. He's running from his last shit, just like with me, I wasn't special. So I'm not trying to say I was. He's running from himself, and that's all he's doing. And he's getting with the first woman that he thinks, okay, she's pretty and she will tolerate me, I'm gonna jump on her. And he finds someone also that is good at, you know, I told him that I had been in these situations where I'd been abused, so he knew that he could take advantage of me. He finds someone with issues like that. He knows how to pick up on that. He's smart with that kind of shit. He knows how to pick up on someone that is going to do anything for him. He knows how to do that. He finds people that are fans of his music too, so they'll look up to him like that and think he's like a fucking god in that way. He does that stuff. He knows what to look for with women. And that doesn't make you special, that makes you another victim. And if he hasn't done this stuff to you yet, that's great. I'm glad. But he has done this to other women. He has done this. This is not made up. He has done this, and that makes him someone you should not be with. And he will do it to you. I wish I would have seen that sooner. And even when I did see it, I didn't want to believe it. So I know there's only so much I can do, because that's what happens when you're in an abusive relationship. People can tell you, hey, he's going to do this and this. They can come up to you and tell you he's going to beat you dead. And you'll still defend him, because that's what happens in abusive relationships. You love your abuser more than you love yourself. And he's going to hear this, and he's going to recall all the times that he was nice to me. I do remember those times too, but I also know all the fucking times you were horrible to me. And that does not make up for that. What he did to me was not okay. What he did to other girls was not okay. And to all the girls before me, I'm so sorry that I couldn't leave sooner and that I couldn't do something for you sooner. It's not my responsibility to help other women when I'm in the same shitty place, but I wish to God I could have. And I feel so bad that when you wanted to help me, I couldn't. I'm hoping that by using my platform to share the fact that he has done these things will help you guys. I believed every story I'd ever heard about him from the second I heard them, but I couldn't choose myself over him. I couldn't choose anyone over him. And I know that anyone that chooses him and doesn't believe this is doing the same thing I was doing, so I'm gonna try my best not to get triggered by it, but it's so hard. I know it. I know it's so hard to hear that you're crazy, but I'm gonna try to handle this the best way I can. Hopefully this video helps someone. Hopefully this video helps just one person. I know I probably look like a mess, but thank you for everyone who came back after I left that relationship. Thank you for everyone who's been so supportive. Thank you for everyone who tried to help or tried to stay and be supportive, no matter what way you tried to be helpful, or if you didn't see it but you were still just a supportive person regardless. Thank you. No one needs to apologize if they didn't see the relationship as bad and supported me through it and like cheered us on. No one needs to say they're sorry for not seeing the signs. Not your fault. I'm just rambling at this point. Again, I'm sorry if this video is incoherent or if I didn't do it right or something. I could only do this video once, so it's gonna suck if I like bomb edit or something, but I tried. And I'm sorry I cried the whole time. Remember that even though no feeling lasts forever, that if you're in a situation like I was in, the little glimpses of happiness are not worth staying for the pain that outweighs it. If you get away and look at the heartbreak right in the face and say, yes, this happened, he did this to me and it sucks, or she did this to me and it sucks, yes, I went through this and it sucks, I hate it, it's the worst feeling I've ever felt. If you can get out of it and face that, it gets better after. And it took me 7 months to try to face it like this, but other people, you know, it could take longer, it could take shorter. Everyone has their own healing time, but just know it does get better. And you don't have to give up, and you don't have to go back to your abuser.